Then I'm gonna put What's happening, my fellow geeks and geekettes? Welcome to a brand new episode of Cosplay Chris, and today marks episode 7 in Mr. Whippy, the construction of my Whiplash cosplay for Oz Comic Con Sydney 2018. So today's episode is all about painting the 3D printed pieces of the exoskeleton. This right here is a dismantled left arm of the exoskeleton, and we also have the back spine, the back power pack. We've got everything here. The rest of the exoskeleton is painted at this point. I left this portion all raw so I could show you guys exactly what goes into painting this piece. Now you're probably thinking the workshop looks like a shambles right now, and it really is. It is con crunch time. Finishing everything up on Whiplash here. After the exoskeleton is all painted, I'm giving it back to Miles. Miles is then going to be tinkering with the electronics. I've got to finalize the makeup, and then the big day arrives. Not to mention I'm also working on another cosplay at the moment, which I will be making an announcement about in partnership with Ubisoft, so I'm very, very excited about that. So first things first is, because we have print lines on these pieces, we have to sand them down. I've got the sander here. This is ABS plastic, so it sands very easily as opposed to PLA. Next step is we're going to add some filler primer just to fill in any print lines. Now, Miles and I have come to the conclusion that we just cannot get rid of every single print line, especially in details like this piece with these little crevices. You just can't do it, and if you do it, you're going to spend weeks trying to get everything out. We're on a deadline, and it gets to a point where you just have to move forward. So after that, some pieces will be primed with the flat grey primer, as you see right here. This is the back spine, and then we're going to go in and do some hand painting with the chrome silver from Model Masters. Now you're probably wondering why I'm not going to go in and spray it with a spray from, say, Rust-Oleum. That stuff takes quite a couple of days to dry, and so much so, even when it is dry, you handle it and there's thumbprints, fingerprints on it, whereas the Model Masters one goes on really well by hand and dries in about half an hour. After that, it's going to be a mixture of washes, dry brushing with some more chrome silver. I'm also going to be using some oil colors for all the staining on certain parts of the arm itself. As for the actual handle for where the whips are, there isn't a lot of detail going on, just more or less coloring around there. So at this point, I'm just going to do a bit of priming and a bit of sanding on this, hand them back to Miles. He's going to do the electronics in them. Then I'm going to be placing the rubber hand wraps and grips around them. This is a very fun process, guys. Looking very forward to it. Looking very forward to seeing all the exoskeleton painted up. It's going to give you a good idea of how this whole piece is going to look in the end. Time to sand, then time to prime. So with that being said, let's get to it. Alright geeks, one of the final steps in this episode is we're going to insert some EVA foam strips on the inside of these pieces here, just for a bit of added comfort, especially on the cuff link here, because I do feel that it starts to dig in after a while. And I think by having some EVA foam line on the inside, it's going to make all the difference if I'm wearing this for a couple of hours at a con. Now I'm just going to be adhering that with some super glue here. This stuff is so cheap from Bunnings and it's practically better than Loctite. I hate to say it, but it really does the job, and for like a pack of 8 it's like $3. Once the glue has dried, I'm going to piece the whole arm of the exoskeleton back together. Going to do some additional weathering on these pieces here once they're all bolted in place, and then I'm going to show you guys the entire exoskeleton back to front, how it looks all painted and all weathered. So thanks very much for watching guys. For the most part, the exoskeleton is fully painted and fully weathered. Now you're probably wondering why I haven't put him back together. Reason being is Miles and I have to go back in with some fresh threads, bolts, screws, you name it. Just spruce it up a little bit because there is some wear and tear from constantly dismantling this thing, putting it back together. We also have to go in and weather some extra areas once it's all put together, not to mention the electronic side. Some pieces have to stay dismantled, but for the most part, it is pretty much done. I am so happy with the end result. It looks a treat. A little bit of subtle weathering here and there, some rust effects and everything. So just keep in mind that the method that I used on the arm in this video is the exact same method I used for pretty much everything all over the rest of the exoskeleton, as well as the back piece that I showed you. Like I said, it has been a madhouse here lately. Not only am I working on Whiplash with Miles finishing that up next couple of weeks for Oz Comic Con Sydney, I'm also working on another cosplay just over there. I'm going to be actually announcing that next week with my fan mail video and just a life update in general on what's been happening here in the workshop. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. I hope you're well, hope you're happy. Be merry, be silly, and until next time geeks, please always remember, cosplayers do it best.